In the wild, every moment counts. But what happens when a bond meant to be natural and instinctive faces an invisible obstacle? A mother gorilla, desperately trying to connect with her newborn, discovers something far more profound than she ever expected: the power of touch and a love that knows no boundaries. But when the world doesn't look as it should for a baby, what do we do? What happens when survival demands a new language, one not built on sight, but on something far more instinctual and emotional? This is the story of a mother and child in the jungle, where not even sight could stop the connection of their hearts. It was an ordinary scene at first glance. A mother gorilla, confident and composed, moving through the dense African jungle. The morning mist was still heavy, and the damp leaves below her feet crunched lightly with every step. She was a mother on a mission, guiding her little one, just as every gorilla mother had done for generations. But this time, something was off. The usual behavior wasn't there. Her baby, usually clinging to her back or attempting to crawl after her, was instead sitting still, its tiny arms outstretched, searching for something. The mother paused, turning back, eyes locking onto her child. She waited for a reaction, but the baby didn't respond. It was as though the world had suddenly gone out of focus for the little one, as if it couldn't see her at all. The mother knew instinctively something was wrong. But what was it? Her child was healthy, strong, yet its eyes, those deep, dark eyes, were vacant, unseeing. The bond that should have been there, the familiar response from her young, was missing. Desperation wasn't what she felt, but there was a quiet confusion, an instinctive sense that something was just different. To the untrained eye, the jungle around them appeared unchanged. The other gorillas, indifferent to the anomaly, continued their routines. They had learned long ago to trust in the rhythms of the wild, but this moment was different. The bond between this mother and her baby would not follow the same rules, and what would happen next would challenge not just the natural world, but the very definition of survival itself. The mother gorilla stepped forward, taking one slow, deliberate step after another, her massive body moving with ease through the dense underbrush. Her brown fur blended seamlessly into the shadows of the forest, but her mind was elsewhere, fixated on the small figure still sitting motionless behind her. The baby's gaze remained vacant, not following her movements, not reacting to the usual rustling of the jungle around them. The other gorillas were already ahead, scattered in groups, each foraging or playing, accustomed to the routine of the day. But here, in this tiny patch of jungle, a quiet unease had taken root. The mother stopped again, glancing over her shoulder. She watched the baby, her eyes filled with a deep, unspoken concern. She knew something was wrong, but she couldn't yet understand what it was. Her instincts told her that her baby should be following, should be scrambling toward her, clinging to her back like the others did at this age. Yet nothing happened. The baby just sat there, reaching into the empty space around it as if searching for a connection it could no longer find. The mother slowly crouched down, and without a sound, she approached her child, bringing her face closer, searching for a spark of recognition. The baby's hands were outstretched, its tiny fingers quivering in the air, grasping at nothing. The mother's breath slowed, and she sat back on her haunches, watching the baby, trying to understand. A low grunt escaped her lips, a vocalization that usually caught her baby's attention. But this time, there was no immediate reaction, no excited movement toward her, no bright eyes searching for the warmth of her presence. She extended a hand, inching closer, hoping that this small gesture would be enough to bring the baby back to her. The baby's fingers twitched, moving aimlessly in the air, still not focused. It was as if the world around it was an abstract blur, out of reach, out of focus. With a deep breath, the mother pulled herself to her feet, taking one more look at the group of gorillas ahead. They had moved on. The jungle had not paused for her, for this moment. She could hear the rustling of the leaves as the others moved deeper into the forest, but her focus remained on the baby. Something wasn't right, and she couldn't shake the nagging feeling that whatever it was, she needed to fix it. She needed her baby to respond, to follow, to understand that she was here, that the world around them was safe. But the more she tried to get the baby to react, the more confused she became. Her maternal instincts surged. She couldn't leave her child behind. She would not abandon this fragile little one, not now, not ever. The thought of being separated, of losing this connection, terrified her. It was a fear more primal than any predator in the jungle. She took a cautious step forward, then another, moving toward the baby who still sat frozen in place. The air felt heavier now, thick with the unspoken question that neither the mother nor the baby could fully articulate. Why was this happening? Why couldn't the baby see her? With a deep, steadying breath, the mother knelt down again, this time sitting in front of her child, blocking out everything else. She wanted to be the world the baby could rely on. She wanted to be its eyes, its guide. The baby's hands reached toward her, but not in the usual desperate way. This time the touch was tentative, uncertain. The baby's fingers brushed against her fur, but there was no immediate grip, no instinctual connection. The mother's heart clenched, a quiet, emotional weight pressing down on her chest. How could she help? How could she communicate the reassurance she so desperately wanted to offer? She leaned down even further, placing her massive hand gently on the baby's back. She could feel the little body tense for a brief moment before it relaxed. The warmth of her touch seemed to have some effect, as if the child was beginning to feel her presence in a way that words or sight couldn't convey. The baby's hands moved again, more confidently this time, feeling her fur tracing the contours of her body. Slowly the baby shifted closer, pressing its head against her side. The mother felt a small sigh escape the baby's lips, a sign of comfort, of recognition. It was the first time the baby had shown any kind of response, and it was a small victory. But still something inside the mother told her that this wasn't enough. She could feel that her baby needed more, that it wasn't just about the physical connection. Something deeper, something more profound was missing. The world the baby lived in was different, and she was the only one who could help it navigate this new reality. And so she stayed there, not moving, not rushing. She waited. She allowed the baby to explore, to adjust, and in doing so she was learning too. It wasn't enough to simply react. She had to adapt. The jungle would keep moving forward, but she had to decide whether she would force her baby to keep up, or whether she would find a way to make sure it could keep moving, even if that meant moving at a different pace. The sound of the jungle continued around them, indifferent to the quiet struggle that was unfolding in this small corner of the world. The mother didn't care about the others. The others didn't matter right now. What mattered was this child, this silent, confused little being that depended on her. She would figure this out. She had to. The morning light was growing stronger now, casting soft golden rays through the thick canopy of leaves. The jungle, alive with the sounds of distant birds and the rustle of leaves, seemed to carry on as if it had not noticed the unique struggle happening just beneath its towering trees. The group of gorillas had moved further into the forest, but the mother remained, a quiet sentinel with her baby by her side. She had not yet decided what to do, whether to force the pace and push her baby to follow, or to adapt to find a new way. The baby's body pressed against hers, the warmth and safety of her presence now grounding them both. But the mother's mind was elsewhere, turning over possibilities, trying to make sense of the disconnect between them. The baby had started to make small, tentative sounds, little grunts and soft noises that she recognized as signs of communication. But there was no visual connection, no eyes locking onto hers. The baby was searching, reaching for something that wasn't there. She had seen it before, this kind of uncertainty, a baby too weak to move, a young one too sick to follow. But this time, there were no obvious signs of illness. The baby was healthy, strong even, yet its eyes remained dull, unfocused. The mother's heart twisted with confusion and sorrow. This was no ordinary issue, no simple misstep. Something had gone wrong in the way the baby saw the world, or rather, couldn't see it. Her hand moved gently to the baby's back once again, a silent reassurance. The warmth of her touch was the only constant in this moment. She wondered what the baby felt when it touched her, if it could even make sense of the world through its fingers alone. As she sat there, still and focused, she realized that her maternal instincts were not going to be enough this time. It wasn't about following the established rhythm of the jungle, of keeping up with the group. It wasn't about survival in the way she had always known it. This time it was about something far more delicate. It was about adapting to a world where the baby could no longer rely on its eyes to guide it. This world would have to be navigated differently, and that was going to take time. It would take patience. The mother leaned in closer, her massive form blocking the surrounding world. She could see the small hands, still trembling as they reached out. The baby's body seemed to hum with uncertainty, but there was something else in the way it reached for her. It was trust. No matter what had happened to its vision, the baby trusted her. It was as if the connection between them, though unseen, was still the strongest force in the world. She stood slowly, feeling the weight of her decision. She wasn't going to rush this. She wasn't going to force the baby to follow the old rules of survival. She would find a new way to guide this little one through the jungle, a slower pace, a different rhythm. She would not abandon her child, not for the speed of the world around them. As the mother began to move, the baby instinctively reached for her back, but she stopped before the child could cling to her as it once might have. The baby hesitated for a moment, then slowly extended its arms outward once more, feeling the air. The mother paused, waiting, allowing the baby to explore, to find its own way of moving through this world without sight. She stepped forward again, slower now, making sure the baby was ready to follow. But this time, she wasn't just guiding the baby with her body, she was also guiding it with her presence. Every step she took was measured, deliberate. Every movement she made was an invitation to trust, to follow the sensation of her body, the vibrations of the earth beneath her feet. The baby reached for her back again, this time more confidently. It grasped the fur tightly, and the mother began to walk again, this time at a pace the baby could follow, one that allowed both of them to stay connected. The world around them might have been a blur to the baby, but it could feel the rhythm of its mother, the steady beat of her movements, the warmth of her presence. As they moved together, the other gorillas in the group faded into the background. The jungle was still, its noise muffled by the quiet determination of the mother. The baby's hands, now more sure of their place on the mother's body, held onto her with a firm grip. It was as if the connection between them had shifted from one of reliance on sight to one of complete reliance on touch. Every few steps, the mother would stop, turning slightly to check on her baby. She would wait for a moment, giving the baby the space to adjust, to catch up, to feel her before she moved again. The baby's hands were learning new ways to navigate the world. It could no longer depend on seeing the path ahead. It would have to rely on the rhythm of the jungle and the guidance of its mother. As the day stretched on, the duo moved deeper into the forest. The other gorillas were far ahead, but the mother was at peace with this. She wasn't following their pace, nor did she intend to. This was their journey at their own speed. The jungle would continue to live on around them, indifferent to the quiet strength of the bond between mother and child. The baby had learned something today. It had learned that even in the absence of sight, it was not lost. It had learned that its mother's presence was enough to lead the way. It would not be abandoned. And together, mother and child would move through this jungle, finding their own way. If you're feeling the deep bond between this mother and child, let me know in the comments below. How do you think they'll continue to adapt to this new world? Don't forget to subscribe for more stories about connection, survival, and the strength of love. Every step matters, and we're all on this journey together. The days passed with a rhythm of their own, one dictated not by the usual rules of the jungle, but by the unspoken bond between mother and child. The once familiar patterns of the group now felt distant, irrelevant. The jungle was vast, full of sounds and movements, but none of it mattered as much as the quiet, steady movement of the mother and her baby. Every step they took together was a new discovery, not just for the baby, but for the mother as well. She had begun to recognize the subtle shifts in the baby's movements, how it now anticipated her pauses, how it reached for her more confidently, even though it still couldn't see her. The baby was no longer feeling around aimlessly, searching for something it couldn't find. Instead, it was learning to trust the rhythmic language of touch, the subtle vibrations of the world that it could still perceive. They were not alone, though. The jungle around them was filled with life. Birds chattered high above, and the leaves whispered with the movement of unseen creatures. The other gorillas occasionally returned to check on them, pausing for a moment before moving on again. The mother didn't mind their glances. They were learning just as she was. The baby's condition was unusual, but it was not an anomaly that demanded pity. It simply was. The group, slow to adapt at first, was now accustomed to the quiet way the mother and child moved through the world. The mother had adjusted her pace. No longer did she rush ahead, instinctively pulling her baby along. Instead, she slowed down even further, allowing the baby to explore, to stretch out its hands and touch everything around it. Sometimes, when they stopped, the baby would reach for the leaves, the branches, or the cool ground, trying to make sense of textures and shapes it couldn't see. The forest had become a landscape of touch, smell, and sound. There was no need for sight when every other sense was heightened, when every step was a conversation between mother and child. It wasn't easy, though. The mother knew that the baby's world was more fragile than the others, that every misstep could bring danger. The jungle, despite its beauty, was not kind to those who couldn't keep up. There were predators to avoid, steep ravines to navigate, and hidden dangers in every corner. The mother kept her watchful eye on the baby, always near, ready to guide it back to safety. One afternoon, the group ventured to a new part of the forest. The trees here were taller, the shadows deeper. The mother and baby had lingered behind again, allowing the others to move ahead. As the mother moved cautiously through the thick undergrowth, she felt a shift, a soft tremor in the air, like something was wrong. Her senses flared. She stopped, crouching down to check the baby, who was still gripping her back, its small hands moving over her fur. Then, the distant rustle of leaves reached her ears, followed by the unmistakable sound of footsteps. She froze. The baby, still unaware, shifted slightly in her arms. The mother's heart raced and her eyes darted around the jungle. A predator. It wasn't common, but the dangers of the wild never rested. She had to act quickly to keep her baby safe. Her instincts kicked in. She moved with a slow, deliberate precision, keeping the baby pressed against her, making herself as small and quiet as possible. She felt the vibrations in the ground as the approaching creature came closer. With every beat of her heart, she prayed that the group the others had noticed and would be able to help. Suddenly the rustle stopped. The mother froze, not daring to move a muscle. She could feel the tension in the air, the silence, thick with the presence of something unseen. For a moment everything seemed to still, as if the entire jungle held its breath. Then, without warning, a shadow darted from the trees, an animal, fast, sleek, but not a predator. It was a troop of monkeys darting through the trees with playful abandon. They were close enough to disturb the ground and the air with their energy, but not dangerous. The mother let out a deep breath, her muscles relaxing, the tension in her body finally easing. The baby, still unaware, felt the shift in the air, but the moment was already past. The mother didn't relax for long, though. She continued her careful watch, not trusting the surroundings completely. She had no idea what the next danger could be, but she had to be prepared. She had learned that the jungle wasn't just a place to survive. It was a place to adapt, to listen, and to learn. The baby, still clinging to her back, was learning too. It was becoming more attuned to the vibrations around it, the slight shifts in the ground, the sound of footsteps, the echo of calls from the other gorillas. In the days that followed, the mother continued to teach her baby the new language of survival. Every step, every pause, was now a lesson in what it meant to live without sight. The baby's hands were no longer just searching for comfort. They were learning to navigate the world, to understand the textures beneath its fingertips, to interpret the world through touch and sound. The mother was patient. She had no choice but to be. It wasn't just about survival. It was about the bond between them, about ensuring that this little one would not only survive, but thrive, even in a world where sight was not an option. As she moved with the baby, the jungle became a different place for them, a place where the rhythm of their movements, the tactile language they were developing together, became their guide. And slowly, the rest of the gorilla group began to see it too. The mother's actions, her quiet, steady movement through the world, were teaching them something. They began to slow down when she did, pausing when she needed to, understanding that the journey was not just about getting from one point to another. It was about moving together as a group in a way that respected the differences within it. The mother's decision had not only reshaped the path for her baby, but had, in a quiet, unspoken way, reshaped the path for the entire group. They had learned to adapt. They had learned that survival was not just about speed or strength. It was about understanding, supporting, and adjusting to the needs of the individual, no matter how different. As the day ended and the group settled into a new resting place, the mother looked down at her baby, now lying next to her on the soft forest floor. The baby was calmer now, its breathing steady, hands still moving lightly over the ground. The mother watched with pride as her little one adjusted to this new way of life. They had made it through another day together, and for now, that was enough. The jungle had not stopped for them, but they had found a way to move through it at their own pace. And in that they had found something even more important than survival: connection. How do you think the mother and baby will continue to adapt to the challenges ahead? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that explore the beauty of adaptation and resilience. Every journey is unique, and we're learning together, step by step.